Hello and welcome once again to Irish Television Chicago. My name is Tom Looney.
And I'm Siobahn Bhuachalla. Do stay with us for this next hour of music, news and fun, all with an Irish flavour.
We have Barleycorn playing tonight, the D Team, also Patrick Street.
And we have a special feature clip tonight on a bus tour around Millennium Dublin City, so stay with us. We're starting off now with the D Team.
We're going to keep you on dancing, this time Kevin to do a song called A Bunch of Time. Come on, you maidens young and fair, all you after blooming in your prime, always beware and keep your garden fair, let no man steal away your time. Time, it is a precious thing, and time brings all things to my mind. Time with all its flavors, along with all its joys. Time brings all things to my mind. Once I had a bunch of time. I thought it never would decay. Then came a lusty sailor who chanced to pass my way and stole my bunch of time away. Young and fair, all you after blooming in your prime, always beware and keep your garden fair, let no man steal away your time. To say gave to me a rose that never would decay. He gave it to me to keep me reminded of when he stole my time away. Maidens young and fair, all you after blooming in your prime, always beware and keep your garden fair, let no man steal away your time. You maidens young and fair, all you after blooming in your prime, always beware and keep your garden fair, let no man steal away your time. Let no man steal away your time. Thank you very much for dancing, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
That was Mayo's D Team starting off our show for us tonight, and we're moving straight on with the music now. A band from all over the place, Dublin, Belfast, some maybe Cork and Donegal too. It's the Barleycorn.
It's about to land that's many miles away. place they call Australia, and the journey's hard and long, but I promise you that there you'll want to stay, where the kangaroo and wallaby are tripping in the sun. There's fertile land as far as you can see, where the Murray River joins the ocean round by Adelaide, and the winter sun beats down on Menindee. When first we reached the New World, a long, long time ago, there were many who were there against their will. But they stayed on with the pioneers and they helped to tame the land. Now their names are heard from Perth to Annandale, where the kangaroo and wallaby are tripping in the sun. There's fertile land as far as you can see, where the Murray River joins the ocean round by Adelaide, and the winter sun beats down on Menindee. There was Rhines from Tipperary and O'Grady's from Mayo. There were Mulligans from Cork up to Tyrone. They went out with the diggers to fight Europe's bloody war, and they helped to bring their wounded comrades home, where the kangaroo and wallaby are tripping in the sun. There's fertile land as far as you can see, where the Murray River joins the ocean round by Adelaide, and the winter sun beats down on Menindee. Well, now you've heard the story of the New World down below, where your colour or your creed is not a care. And we'd sing waltzing Matilda sitting by the billabong, and we'd sometimes think about the coast of Clare, where the kangaroo and wallaby are tripping in the sun. There's fertile land as far as you can see, where the Murray River joins the ocean round by Adelaide, and the winter sun beats down on Menindee, where the kangaroo and wallaby are tripping in the sun. There's fertile land as far as you can see, where the Murray River joins the ocean round by Adelaide, and the winter sun beats down on Menindee. Thank you.
Welcome back. I would like to remind you that if you'd like to have some, to buy some commercial space, now's the time to do it. Call us here at the Abbey Productions and we'll be glad to quote you some reasonable rates, 5396,000. Now we'll go back to that great group all the way from County Wexford, the Bards.
Anyway, Christy here to sing it for you. The place where the strawberry beds sweep down to the lip.
1, 2, 3.
Starting to run out of time, friends.
For the little boats are gone on the breast of Anna Liffey. The ferrymen are stranded on the quay. Sure, the Dublin docks are dying, and that way of life is gone. And Molly, it was part of you and me. And you know the chorus, where the strawberry beds sweep down to the Liffey, you kiss away the worries from my brow. I love you well today, and I'll love you more tomorrow. Will you ever love me, Molly? Love me now. 'Twas the only job I knew. It was hard but never lonely. The Liffey ferry made a man of me. Now it's gone without a whisper and forgotten even now. It's summer, Molly, oh, but can't you see? Will you sing it with us? Where the strawberry beds sweep down to the Liffey, you kiss away the worries from my brow. I love you well today, and I love you more tomorrow. Will you ever love me, Molly? Love me now. Play it, Fran. The yard and I spend me days in talking, and I hear them whisper, Charlie's in the dial, just about. But Molly, we're still living, and darling, we're still young, and that river never owes me heart and soul. Where the strawberry beds sweep down to the Liffey, you kiss away the worries from my brow. I love you well today, and I'll love you more tomorrow. Will you ever love me, Molly? Love me now. One for the road where the strawberry beds sweep down to the Liffey, you kiss away the worries from my brow. I love you well today, and I'll love you more tomorrow. Will you ever love me, Molly? Love me now. Come on, the dogs.
Well, it's time now to join Mike Schevlin and Eamonn Kelly with the news and sports.
And do stay tuned after news and sports, because I'll be back with some very special news for you about an upcoming event here at the Abbey. We'll keep you guessing. Here's Mike.
Good evening. The Committee for Legal Justice is to send an observing lawyer to the trial of 3 Irish people charged with conspiracy to kill the British Secretary for Northern Ireland, Mr. Tom King. The charges allege that the 3 conspired to murder Mr. King last year. The forthcoming controversial trial will be at Winchester Crown Court, despite 2 unsuccessful applications to have the trial moved to an alternate venue. An ad hoc Oireachtas committee dealing with Irish prisoners in Britain has said it is very concerned with the choice of venue. Winchester is a garrison town. It serves as a military headquarters for 7 British regiments, which have all served and incurred casualties in the north of Ireland. The jury system in Britain requires that jury members be drawn from the jurisdictional trial area. As with most garrison towns, the greater number of residents can be expected to have connections with the military, and as such, the committee is concerned that the defendants will not be accorded the full due process of law. Mr. Cody McCone, the representative for the Committee for Legal Justice, has said that the location is not the only concern of his organization. He said there is no credible evidence whatever against the defendants. Mr. Peter King, chairman of the Committee for Legal Justice, said this week that he believes that this is a political prosecution, and we want the British government to know that the world is watching. Relatives of the accused have welcomed Mr. Cohen's attendance at the trial. The trial of John McCann, Martina Shanahan, and Finbar Cullen is due to begin tomorrow in Winchester. Speculation is rife in Ireland that Pope John Paul II may visit the country in the near future. Mr. Hugh McLaughlin, the Supreme Knight of the Order of the Knights of Columbanus, said last week that both the Republic's government and the Catholic hierarchy have reacted favorably to the proposed visit. Mr. McLaughlin was speaking at the closing of his order's annual conference in County Wicklow. Mr. McLaughlin told the Irish media that he was very hopeful that the Holy Father would be invited to visit Ireland. The primary aim of the visit would be to help secure peace in the north of Ireland. Strict protocol surrounds a papal visit of any nature. Under Vatican procedure, the local hierarchy, in agreement with the government, must issue a formal invitation to the Pope. The Catholic Press and Information Office in Dublin denied last week that there were any plans for a visit. However, a spokesman for the Curia did say that the prospect of a papal visit in 1989 was not an impossibility. Dr. John McGee, the present Bishop of Cloyne, is a former secretary of the Holy Father, and it is expected that a second papal visit would probably be concentrated in Munster Province. Pope John Paul did not visit Cork during his first visit in 1979. Mr. McLaughlin said in conclusion that he felt a papal visit would bring a tremendous healing peace to the country at a time when it was badly needed. He urged all people who long for peace in Ireland to pray for action in this regard. Mrs. Carmen Proada, one of the key witnesses in the inquest into the killing of the Gibraltar Three, took the witness stand last week. Mrs. Proada was called to give evidence on the 14th day of the inquest. After being sworn in, Mrs. Proada repeated her assertions that Daniel McCann and Myrid Farrell were shot as their hands were raised in surrender and then repeatedly shot at when they fell to the ground. Lawyers for the British Army argue that Mrs. Proada did not see the incident at all because the police car she allegedly saw arrived after the shooting had stopped. However, Mrs. Proada claims that the shooting was still in progress when the police car arrived. Mrs. Proada told the court that she was drawn to her window by a police siren. She saw a couple with their hands raised over their shoulders. She heard a shot and the girl fell to the ground. The man made a gesture to help her, but then he too fell to the ground. Mrs. Proada said that she then heard a fusillade of shots and saw a man about 3 feet away with a gun in his hand. When asked if she heard any shout or a warning of any kind, Mrs. Proada replied, "Absolutely none at all." Carmen Proada also told the inquest of the suffering she and her family have had to endure since her decision to speak out. She told the coroner, Mr. Pizzarello, that if this had to happen again, she would not appear to give evidence. Another witness in the Gibraltar shooting caused consternation in the court last week when he retracted almost all of his previous statements but failed to explain why he did know some vital facts which were only disclosed to the public last week. Mr. Kenneth Asquez had said he saw a man put a foot on another man's chest and shoot him several times at point-blank range. Mr. Asquez had originally written that the man doing the shooting had been wearing a black beret and carrying an ID card. However, at the inquest last week, Asquez said he had made up his story from press reports. Mr. Pizzarello asked Mr. Asquez how then he knew about the beret and the ID, as these details were known only to the British military authorities until last week. Mr. Asquez said he couldn't remember, and the inquest continues. Representatives from all the Irish political parties attended the funeral of Alderman Ned Brennan in Dublin last week. Ned Brennan was one of Dublin City's leading citizens. The Taoiseach, Mr. Haughey, and the Lord Mayor of Dublin, Mr. Ben Briscoe, attended the concelebrated Mass at the Church of Our Lady of Divine Grace. Dublin City councillors, wearing their ceremonial robes, formed a guard of honour outside the church and carried the coffin shoulder high to the hearse for removal to St. Fintan's Cemetery. 2 former city Lord Mayors, the city manager, Mr. Tom Feely, government ministers, and independent TDs Neil Blaney and Tony Gregory followed the funeral procession to the cemetery in Sutton. Alderman Brennan is survived by his wife Vera and his children John, Edward, Margaret, and Marie. That's the news for tonight. I am Mike Schevlin.
Good evening, this is Eamonn Kelly with a review of Irish sports sponsored by Cragen Federal and Savings. While the vast majority of Irish sports fans were watching anxiously the fate of their athletes competing against the best in the world at the Olympic Games, other sports events, maybe of less significance, took place last weekend. Golf fans must have been very happy with the performance of Des Smith in the German Masters at Stuttgart. Smith from Drogheda County Louth tied with Anders Forbrandt of Sweden for second place with a 7-under par score of 281 to earn $40,000. The winner of the $400,000 tournament was Jose Alzabal of Spain at 9 under par. Feature of the tournament was Des Smith's hole-in-one in the first round. As far as the Olympic Games are concerned, it appears that Ireland's only hopes remain with the performance of our long-distance runners. A source of disappointment was the overall poor performance of the Irish boxers. All boxers were eliminated before reaching the quarter-final stages of the Olympic tournament. John Lowy, the Irish bantamweight champion, was the last of the Irish squad to be eliminated. However, as reported by the Irish Independent newspaper, middleweight boxer Kieran Joyce from Cork easily earned the right to qualify for the quarter-final, but because of total injustice, it prevented him from from being a reality. After a great performance by Joyce in outpointing Franco Vanyam of Uganda, the Irish fans in the arena were stunned when Vanyam was declared the winner. On a more positive note, Ireland can be very proud of the brilliant performance of Belfast light heavyweight Wayne McCullough. The 18-year-old came very close to beating the British Commonwealth champion Scott Olson from Canada. Well, from the Olympics to Gaelic football, usually by this time of the year all major competitions in Gaelic games have been completed. This year is an exception because the 1988 All-Ireland football final between Meath and Cork ended in a tie on September the 18th. All eyes will now focus on next Sunday's replay at Dublin's Croke Park. Since the replay, the first and the final since 1972, has generated so much interest and excitement, I thought I should encourage an on-screen discussion on the big game. At this point, I'm very happy to welcome two very enthusiastic Gaelic football followers. And on my left here, I have Brendan O'Leary, who is a member of the Kerry Benevolent Association, and Colin McCann, chairman of the Chicago GAA, and also a sports writer with Gaelic World and the Irish Voice. Well, right now I would like to welcome, first of all, Brendan O'Leary to my left. And Brendan, I know I've been a friend of yours for a long, long time, and you've been very active with the Kerrymen's Association, or the Kerrymen's Benevolent Association, and also I think I very rarely see you missing from Gaelic Park when it comes to the league and championship games during the summer. And of course on my right here is Colin McCann, who I've worked with for the last 2 years on the board of the Chicago GAA as secretary of the GAA, and now Colin, of course, is the chairman of that organization. And I welcome both of you here this evening to just have a little roundtable discussion upon first of all, what your thoughts were on the All-Ireland final, as it was a tie between Cork and Meath on September the 18th, and then maybe we might just go into what our expectations are of the big game coming up next Sunday. Brendan, what were your thoughts on the tie game? I know you saw it on videotape as I did, or should we say live via satellite.
Of course, the satellite picture was excellent, and the game was an exciting game. There was poor football maybe in the first half. It was a peculiar game because it looked, even though Cork got an early goal, Meath seemed to take over, and they were getting the balls at midfield and placing them where they needed. And then, of course, in the second half, Cork went into their own. They had Larry Tompkins out there at centre field, who's probably one of the greatest footballers in Ireland. And if he does have one fault, Eamonn, I think that he tries to do it all on his own. There are times that he should pass the ball when he tries to go through. And my feeling is that the Cork forwards, which is a failing with them, they try to walk the ball into the net instead of picking the points off. They should have won this game. They had it. It never even should have got to where that controversial free took place.
That's true.
And when you leave a champion off the hook, I'm from Munster and I'd love to see Cork win, but I just think that they blew it.
You know, I was very, very impressed with the way Meath came back after a shot goal in the first 2.5 minutes of play. It was a very well taken goal. It may have come against the run of the play because Meath typically were controlling centre field. But I thought the Cork forwards played the ball very well. They manoeuvred right into the verge of the parallelogram and took what I consider a very good opportunity.
It was a beautiful goal, no doubt about it. And that was the best move that the Cork forwards had. And as I say, Meath were getting the balls, and maybe they were watching the breaks, they were placing the ball out to their forwards, they were doing real well. But in the second half, when Cork took over at midfield, it seemed to me that Meath were flustered. They were no longer playing the wings, they were just kicking the ball any place just to get it out of danger.
That's true.
And Cork were coming on and had the opportunities, but you can't walk the ball into the goal. And their forwards, I think, just lost the game for them. And that was my opinion. It was a very exciting finish. The last 20 minutes is what an All-Ireland should be. I mean, anybody went out to see that game. I wasn't, from being from Kerry, I was as excited sitting there because it was one team, going ahead and then equalised, and the other team. It was a fantastic, exciting finish to it.
It certainly was.
But
what do you think, Colin?
Yeah, what kept it exciting was the fact that the score never got neither team went ahead by very far at any point. Cork had a 3-point lead, and that was as much of a lead as they got at any stage in the game. As far as Cork are concerned, if they're relying on Larry Tompkins to do the job for them and win the All-Ireland for them, that's not the way a team can do it, and that's not the way they will do it. They're going to have to strengthen up the rest of their forwards, like you say, Brendan. they are weak in the forward line, and Larry Tompkins missing all those frees. Very uncharacteristic of him, but they could have had the winning of the game there, but there was a lot of the other Cork forwards had the winning of the game at their...
But I felt this year, and when I was back in Ireland this year, and my nephews live in Cork, and the feeling was that this was no longer a Larry Tompkins team.
Yeah.
Cork had some very good young ball players, and they have some good ball players. And I felt somehow Meath was sluggish. They were not the same type of Meath team that was there last year, whether the fact they were out in America, sometimes it takes a team a little while to get back into shape. But I don't think that Meath this year were as just as dynamic as they were last year.
They weren't.
But I don't think that they're going to be the same Meath team. I think there'll be an improvement in them next for the final.
Yeah.
I think they have not reached the heights, as you say, Brendan, that they did in last year's football final. I mean, I happened to be at the game with themselves in Dublin. Obviously, I was a little disappointed with Dublin not beating them. They should have tied the game certainly with the last kick of the game. But Meath were held scoreless by Dublin for almost 26 minutes in that game, and very rarely do you see an All-Ireland Championship team being kept scoreless during the reign of their throne for that many minutes in a game.
Meath were definitely off form. They were overconfident, too sure of themselves coming into the game. It didn't click for them. Brian Stafford, prolific score getter, didn't really get into it as well as he should have. And I agree with Brendan, when Meath come back on Sunday, they're going to be tough.
And Colm O'Rourke is another fantastic footballer that just didn't have a good day. He was out of it most of the time.
They're not going to make the same mistakes.
If I feel, and I'm pulling for Cork, and I hope they win, but I feel that once you got a champion, and you got him on the ropes, you got to take advantage of it, because the next time around, he's not going to be the same. And I feel that Meath will win by about 2 points. That's my prediction.
One thing I couldn't understand, maybe you may not agree with me on this, when Larry Tompkins was moved into the centre of the field around the half-time break, I was surprised that the Meath mentors did not have John Harnan follow him into that area. I realised that Meath are very well established in the centre of the field with Brian Hayes and Liam Hayes, I should say, and Jerry McEntee. I realise they're probably two of the best pair in Ireland in the centre of the field, but Harnan was doing such a good job on Larry Tompkins that I was very surprised they didn't make that move.
I agree. I think Kerry made the same mistake by when they played in the Munster final, that they didn't move the centre half back out too.
Yeah, if the man is doing his job on him, they shouldn't change. They should have kept him on Tompkins. Meath had the midfield all to themselves virtually in the first half, but in the second half it was just a complete turnaround. Teddy McCarthy came into it much more in the second half.
Interesting statistics. With Cork pretty much dominating affairs in the second half, they had 13 wides to Meath 6 wides in the course of the game. That's too many wides. You cannot win an All-Ireland if your wides are double what your opponents are.
Well, I think if Larry Tompkins, if Cork could somehow get a forward to stay on the side, and Larry Tompkins pass the ball out, set himself and kick the ball over the bar, they would have an excellent chance of winning. But they have this type of game they play that they want to walk that ball right in, and it doesn't work. And it's just like a cold crowd. You can't even get through that mess. And I think that's where that free came in. It was just like a whole bunch of people are right there in the middle.
I don't know whether either one of you had a chance to see the replay of that free. I had the opportunity of playing it back about 4 or 5 times, and to this day I could not see a free.
The only people in Ireland or anywhere that you'll find that it'll say it was a free is those from Meath. Every journalist that has written a report on the game, and everybody seems to be unanimous that it shouldn't have been a free.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Colm. I read the report by Hayes, who plays with Meath centre field, and he's written in the Sunday Press and he's written in the Irish Voice, which you're part of, and he distinctly says that ball was picked off the ground by a Cork man. Now that I didn't see at all.
That's a different interpretation of the free.
I mean, there might have been some dispute over whether the Mead man was put the ball.
That's what we thought. The only reason it could have been David Beggy had the ball,
Had possession of the ball.
but it looked more like he fell forward rather than
I
was
thought
pushed.
so. Now, I really was surprised when Liam Hayes did mention that the ball was released from Beggy's hand and then a Corkman picked it up off the ground. That I looked for again after I read this story, and I found no substance at all to that statement.
I
But
could not see either. I'd seen 4 or 5 replays at the end of the game, and definitely no ball was picked off the ground from the camera angle we looked at. But my point is that Cork should never have even been in that position.
No,
They should
not at
have
all.
been in a position where they were ahead by 5 or 6 points at that point. But again, it brings back the question: how do you expect one man to follow up the kind of game that they're playing today
It's moving
and,
so
and
fast.
keep track of it? It's impossible.
You know, we were talking before we went on camera here about the idea of more than one referee, or maybe a little more authority given to the linesmen and the umpires. I know more and more authority is being presented to these officials, but I still don't think they have enough. There's too much happening behind the referee's back.
I think what the authority they're given is for off-the-ball fouls.
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
But they should be able to intervene in other cases
Should,
as well,
definitely.
and offer their advice or what they have seen. They should be able
That's
to
right.
tell the referee what they have seen in a particular incident.
Yeah,
But that was a tough one, though. It was right in the middle of the square
Yeah.
there, and it was.
It's very difficult, and he he's a very good referee,
Yeah.
and it's a difficult position. And again, as we were talking, Eamonn, before we got on the air, the game has changed so much. Years back, when you had the ball kicked out from the full back and you had midfield going, somebody got it at midfield, kicked it into the forwards. It was man on man,
Right.
and that's how it was. So it was a simple game. Now you find the left full forward up in the back line clearing balls.
right.
That play moves back and forth so fast. It's impossible to ask one man to keep up with it and do a perfect job.
Now, I know we're
Yeah.
going to be running out of time very shortly. There's one question I'd like to have Colm address here, and that's Ulster football. Now, Colm, you're from County Tyrone. What town in County Tyrone are you from, by the way?
Omagh.
Oh man, County
Yeah,
Tyrone.
the main town.
What's the problem with Ulster football?
It's,
We get as far as Croke Park, and the
Yeah.
team that, other than Down, of course, who
we choke
took the only crowns across the
into
the
the
border.
6 counties, yeah.
They were brilliant in the 60s.
That's right.
We've never had a team of that caliber coming out of Ulster ever since.
You
What do
haven't
you
had-
see as the problem?
Well, whatever the problem may be, they haven't been consistent since Down and Cavan, those 2 counties. But they choke when they get to Croke Park, whether they get an awe of the opposition or whether it's the large crowds. I think the gut feeling in the counties in the north is, or in Ulster, they just feel like they're out of their depth whenever they get to Croke Park and they come up against these teams, and they get shaky. And that was very evident when Tyrone had an 8-point lead against Kerry
Exactly.
3 years ago and couldn't hold on to that. It just fell apart. But I would hope you see some brilliant, I wouldn't say brilliant, but you see some great Ulster teams and up into the Ulster final, and
Exactly.
through the Ulster final, and then after that they just don't seem to
Sure.
be able to go that extra
Exactly.
bit of distance.
And back to you, Brendan. I know being a Kerry man, and you're wondering
Sorry,
what's going on,
Kerry.
right? Well, Dublin and Kerry played in the All-Ireland final a couple of weeks ago. I was very, very surprised to see Dublin beaten because I'd seen them play Meath. They were an excellent minor team. Whether it was the appearance of green and gold in Croke Park as their opposing jersey, did that have a lot to do with it, do you think?
I don't think so, Eamonn, because to tell you the truth, I expected Dublin to beat them because Dublin has always had, when Dublin got into the final in the minors, they were, a brand of soccer plus football. They were very hard to beat. I saw the semi-final game between Kerry and Tyrone, which was really the day that the wind was blowing right across the field.
Yes.
And I was impressed by the Kerry minor team coming from behind against such an atrocious wind and getting a goal. And when the goalie would kick out the ball, it would go out to touch on the side. But I have a gut feeling that it'll be a while before Kerry are back again. There are 2 places that they really need help. And I mean, there are a lot of places, but full back and full forward.
True.
They have the greatest footballer, probably one of the best athletes in Ireland, playing fullback, which is Coach Tom Spillane. And Tom is not a fullback. He can play centre half, centre field, he can play anything, and he's there because there's nobody else to play it. And full forward is another position. You know, the bomber has been hurt and he's not there. And they maybe have 3 or 4 other places where they need help. So it's probably a good thing. Cork are on the way up, and it depends what Kerry gets out of the minor team, but one now, and you know the 21 or 21 team, but who knows?
Then you may have Jack O'Shea staying out here in this country and playing with Wolf Towns.
But I'll tell you, the greatest football aim, and I've seen a video back in Ireland of Kerry's great years, and it should have been Kerry and Dublin's great years, because some of the greatest football, and it was really, you had to sit back and watch it to appreciate it, were the Kerry-Dublin games. And the 77 semi-final, which they said was the greatest game ever played. And I disagree with that, because I was in Croke Park and Kerry lost, but I saw the video of it and I agree with it. It was a fantastic game. And Dublin were a fantastic team.
Well,
they brought this new type of football to the fore, and it's exciting.
It's rather unusual not seeing either Dublin or Kerry in the final. But anyway, we're almost out of time, and I'd like to get some kind of a prediction for next Sunday. I got an Ulster man on one side, a Munster man on the other side, and I being from the province of Leinster, let's have it.
Well, I would love to see Cork win, being from Kerry and from Munster, and I know George Hurley and all the Cork people are going to kill me at the Cork dance, but I have to go with Meath by at least 2 points.
Yeah.
You can't leave a champion off the hook like they did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think Meath are going to come back very strong, but I think Cork are going to have their axe straightened out too. So just to have something going here with Brendan, I'm going to go for Cork in this one.
As for myself, I did predict that Cork would win the final, and they were obviously unlucky that they didn't. I still seem to feel that way, but I think Meath are going to be pretty much on their toes next time. One thing we should mention before we close our show this evening is to mention to you that the live telecast of the game will be coming directly via satellite into the Irish Heritage Centre on the north side, and of course in the Gaelic Park on the south side. Brendan, I know that we in the GA are very happy to be co-partners with the Kerry Benevolent Association, the Galway Association, and of course with the Irish Heritage Centre. Would you like to add something to that?
Well, I would just like to remind the people that the game will start at 9 o'clock. Now, the other games start at 9:30, but the replay of the final will be on at 9 o'clock. And I agree with Eamonn. It's a great thing to see all the Irish organisations combined and getting together so that the Irish people in Chicago can see the greatest spectacle that there is in Ireland, the All-Ireland Final. If you've never been to one, I don't care what county you're, when you get up there and when that picture comes on the air, you see the tricolour, you see the Artane band on the field. If you don't get a feeling down the spine, there's something wrong with you. You've got Irish blood in you. That's where you want to be. And believe me, you can see it all next Sunday morning at 9 o'clock at Gaelic Park at the Irish Heritage.
Well, thank you very much. Brendan O'Leary from the Kerry Benevolent Association on my left from County Kerry, and Colin McCann, my colleague in the GAA as chairman of the Chicago board, and also sports writer with both the Irish Voice and Gaelic News in Ireland. And so until next Monday at the same time, when I hope to bring you some highlights of this big All-Ireland football final, this is Eamonn Kelly bidding you a very good evening.
Well, thanks to Mike Schevlin and Eamonn Kelly for the news and sports. And now we'd like to remind you that coming up on October the 19th, we have a tremendous group here, internationally renowned, and group that was in the top 10 in England and Ireland some years back. And that's the Fury Brothers. We have a limited number of tickets available, and you can get your reservations by calling 539-6002. That's 539-6002 for tickets to the Fury Brothers on October the 19th. Siobahn?
Tom, it's an absolutely marvellous opportunity to hear a very, very impressive group here live at the Abbey. Right now we're listening to Patrick Street.
And the first one is known as Mountain Rochford's Rail. Thank you.
Well, during the month of September, we had a great ballad singer here that you've heard in the past on the show, and he'd like to call himself the Bard of Armagh. That's Pat Woods, and here's Pat now with a number for you.
It's a beautiful song. It's called The May Morning Dew. The roses are faded and the summer's no more. The joys and the tidings of the long day are o'er. Some love for to wander o'er the green fields I knew, but they're faded and gone like the May morning dew. I went up on the hilltop and I looked all around. The place seemed enchanted, but no true love I found. I cursed the cruel tyrant that bid her adieu, and I mingled my teardrops in the May morning dew. God be with my old parents, they are now dead and gone. And likewise my two brothers, young Michael and John. It was with them I wandered the wild stags to pursue, as we fished the cold streamlets in the May morning dew. God be with my old homestead, not a stick nor a stone. And over the garden the wild flowers have grown. I miss all my neighbours and the fond friends I knew, but they're faded and gone like the May morning dew. Thank you. Thank you, the May morning dew.
Once again, we're at the end of another show. Thank you for tuning in, and remember that on October 19th we have the Fury Brothers and Davy Arthur here at the Abbey Pub. And if you'd like tickets, please call us here at 478-4408 or 539-6002.
And get your tickets now because they're going fast. And remember, next weekend, for one weekend only, Listowel are back here playing at the Abbey. Come down and join us and sample some of our good food from the new kitchen too. Good night.
Until next week, good night.
Sailor lads are skipping round the mast, while the landlubbers lie down below, below, below. While the landlubbers lie down below. Up spoke the captain of our gallant ship, and a fine old man was he, saying this fishy mermaid has warned me of our doom. We shall sink to the bottom of the sea, and the ocean waves do roar, and the stormy winds do blow, and we poor sailor lads are skipping round the mast, while the landlubbers lie down below, below, below. While the landlubbers lie down below. Up spoke the cabin boy of our gallant ship, and a fine young lad was he, saying I have a sweetheart in sailing by the sea. Tonight she'll be weeping for me, and the sailor lads are skipping around the mast, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below. Up spoke the cook of our gallant ship, and the crazy owl was he. Said I care much more for my pots and my pans than I do for the bottom of the sea. And the ocean waves to roar, and the stormy winds to blow, and we poor sailor lads are skipping around the mast, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below. 3 times around spun our gallant ship, and 3 times round spun she. 3 times around spun our gallant ship, and she sank to the bottom of the sea. And the ocean waves to roar, and the stormy winds to blow, and we poor sailor lads are skipping round the mast, while the landlubbers lie down below, below, below. Landlubbers lie down below.
Thank you. You can't trust the mermaids.